out in the open, but sometimes I leave stuff alone until I see you pull it out. Because I just kind of like to let you take off with it. I'm not much of a quarterback. I'm a pretty good running back, though, wide receiver.
Okay, that's running. I got that running. We're all here this morning. I'm just getting it all going. See him up there. Wow, so that's that much late. I'll have to remember not to turn that on over there till I turn that on. They got Adidas stamped right on their face.
Okay.
Okay. We are here this morning, and it's raining out here, and I got a little bit of a late start this morning, and that one did too. That's all right. I think I have the live broadcast set up right now. There were some things that the new USDI card, whatever you call it, video and sound card, they weren't matching up, and our tech guy worked on it, and I can see the sound bouncing all the way to the top, almost yellow, so
Yeah.
we should be okay. And hopefully, if somebody's on the live broadcast, you can either type in and tell us. But I listened to it in there, and we last night for a while just to make sure, and it seemed like it's doing okay. So good to be back, and continuing to look at the things that we did. I got this mic set up. I'm gonna have to find one that's got a shorter piece to it. Unless that twists off. But anyway, I don't like it this staring me right in the face. But that's the way it is at the moment. Sunday of the year, and last Sunday of the decade.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're privileged. I guess everybody gets to experience that though, don't they?
But not everybody's aware of it.
Not everybody's aware of it.
No.
So we've been talking, doing kind of a review of 2019 for the last 3 or 4 sessions where we got together, fellowships, and it came down to where there's just a few things left, and we didn't even touch a lot of what went on through the year, the things that we've seen, and so I was thinking about me personally, and I'm just so glad to be sitting here this morning. 2019 was kind of a rough year for me when it comes to health-wise, but I'm back on my feet and doing great. And I was telling Patty last night, 2019 was really 18 and 19 were the 2 toughest years of my life when it comes to health. And it's kind of funny because when I hit 62 years old, no, it was 61 years old, that's when my father started having all of his strokes and things. And that's in the back of my mind all the time. And most of my aunts and uncles and everyone else, they passed across the veil somewhere between 60 and 65. And in less than 2 months, I'm going to be 66. So I'm just, I'm breaking that family tradition. And I'm going to move on, and haven't had any strokes, haven't had any really life-threatening things since the 2018 deal with cancer. And, you know, we can, epigenetics-wise, we can break all that. We don't have to go with the genetics of our family, and I am not going to. I'm going to move on from that. Feeling good, and everything's going well. So I remember my father died at 74. He had about 12 years of just a terrible life, where every time he would get back on his feet, he'd have another stroke. And then finally it got into heart attacks and put him paraplegic in the bed. And so I started really taking care of my health-wise back then, about 5 years ago. Paying close attention. I paid attention all the time, but paying very close attention, and I think that was my spirit, the Holy Spirit, helping me. If I hadn't done that and really paid close attention and stayed exercising and stretching and everything, I don't think I would be sitting here this morning. So, and that's how much we need to begin to trust in this thing inside of us. It was talking to me, telling me you need to do something about your weight, you need to do something about your health, you need to change the way you're eating. And it was talking to me a lot because I was nearing that, I guess, goal line or whatever of the family. And so we all need to pay very close attention to what's talking inside you. And I'm gonna set this thing up so we can see you got yours.
I'll check the live broadcast real quick. So.
Okay, that's what I was going to do
Oh,
here.
okay. Then I'll stay.
Well, no, you do the live broadcast. I was just gonna see if this is on here, which I hope it is. Facebook. Yeah, it's on. I'll turn this down so I'm not blasting myself. So, good to be back. And 2020, I want to talk just a little bit on review of 2019 and kind of the vision for 2020 and where we're headed. So I think there's a lot this year, 2020 vision. That's perfect vision, and we're headed right into it this coming week. And I wanted to discuss that just a little bit this morning and kind of review back. And I was thinking about Friday night session when we were talking. We talked a little bit about the Lord and how that He dwelled in thick darkness. And so I had written something down and talking on the concept of thick darkness. We all know that at one point the Spirit was called Elohim. Elohim in the Greek or in the Hebrew words means a self-existent being. Nothing else existed around Him. And you say, well, that means we weren't in existence. No. If you can believe what your prophet taught you, William Branham, he told us that the mind of the Spirit is different than a human mind, in a manner of, as humans, we don't have a mind that is has infinite the way it thinks. We don't have a mind that is infinite, whereas the Spirit is infinite, and it doesn't have to have a blueprint of what it's going to be and then build that blueprint. He said the Spirit its mind is alive, is real, and that's where we were. We were in his mind. We were alive. We were well before the foundation of the world. Job, where were you when the sons of God shouted for joy and the morning stars were made and this and that? So we were in his mind, yes. Now for me, I don't see any difference between being here and there. We're still in his mind. If there's any difference, it's just the manifestation of what we're doing.
Right.
So, yes, we were in his mind. Nothing was existing outside of him. And now the difference is he took what was in his mind and put a physical, earthly, elemental manifestation to it. Whereas before we were in theophany civilization and so he dwelt alone in thick darkness. Thick darkness not meaning, like I said the other night, not meaning like, nighttime. Thick darkness meaning nothing was known for him.
Right.
I think one place in the book of Isaiah, it talked about that's my phone. In the book of Isaiah, it talked about he dwelled in thick darkness. I think Moses talked about, when he was on the mountain, he dwelled in thick darkness. All it's saying is the people didn't know what he was. Mm-hmm. All the way up, really, until a lot of the world didn't understand who he was in Acts 17 in Athens. And what took place? Paul went into Athens and he was walking around and he was talking with people and he was sharing his message and sharing what had happened to him. And he noticed in Athens an inscription to the unknown God. Mm-hmm. He was still, to some people, he was still dwelling in thick darkness. Mm-hmm. All the way up till, creation had been going on for thousands and thousands of years, yet still they didn't know who he was or had not come to that understanding. He was dwelling in thick darkness. The unknown means darkness. It hasn't been developed yet. It hasn't been manifested yet. And so we see the Lord dwelling in thick darkness as Elohim, and then he began to move himself out by becoming the creation. And I wanted to read this. The prophet said the Lord dwelt in thick darkness. We know that this doesn't mean nighttime. And when the prophet said he moved into the darkness and brought light, that doesn't mean that the sun came up. It has nothing to do with those kinds of things. It just means that he removed the darkness or he began to make himself known. And thick darkness is the unknown, and coming to the light is opening his understanding. And notice I said his understanding, because the Lord, the Spirit, did not have an understanding of all the things that he has an understanding of today. He had knowledge, but he had not yet had the experiences to understand his knowledge. And I'm talking about the Spirit. So the thick darkness is the unknown, and coming to the light is opening his understanding. Oh, Brother Parnell, Tori, you know better than that. The Lord has always had all knowledge and everything existed in him, and on and on and on. And that's, I will sit here and agree with you all day long when it comes to that logic. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to understanding, why do you think we made all of this? Right. Why do you think we're sitting here today with gray hair and Adidas sweatshirts on and everything else? We're in here experiencing everything that we had in logic, mm-hmm. in knowledge, and now we're putting it to understanding. And the Spirit is who is doing it. That holy thing, that male, female, that person who went back through eternity and goes forward through eternity, and none of it is yesterday or tomorrow. All of it is today. All of it is in today, and it will always be in today. There will never be a tomorrow, and there will never be a yesterday. That's only memories or vision, but reality is always right now. So the eyes of his understanding were being opened by creation. When he was, good morning, Sister Nora. When he was creating all of these things, it was opening his eyes. In his mind and in his logic, there were trees. But when he made those things, when you and I created these things, it brought an understanding to what a tree is. And all the hundreds of thousands of kinds of trees, and the grass, and the skies, and the clouds, and the bird kingdom, and the animal kingdom, and the human kingdom, and you could just go on and on and on. As these things were created, the eyes of the Spirit were coming to its understanding. And the Spirit, the eyes of his understanding were opened by creation. It was thick darkness until creation began. And the Spirit had feeling. How was he doing that? Let me just give you a little example. When he broke into the theophany civilization, and these theophanies that were in his mind began to manifest, he began to have feeling of what those theophanies were like. He still couldn't eat, he couldn't sleep, he couldn't do any of those things, but he broke into some feeling in the theophany realm. And then when he broke into spoken word and actually had a created earth and all these things, not just in the mind, but an actual creation, he began to taste the water. He began to feel the air. He began to, everything that we had created, he began to feel it. And he began to feel it and started having emotion and started having intuition about what it is, how it acts. And then when he took Adam and Eve and stepped them into the humanity through intimacy and sexual relationship, it broke the Holy Spirit, it broke it into another whole realm of gaining understanding and feeling and emotion and all of those types of things. So we are continually creating things, creating things that actually gives us more understanding about the attributes in us. Constant. And that's what someone said, well, Brother Parnell, if we were eternal, what's the creation for? For you to understand yourself and how eternal you are. That you never, all of your attributes coming out, just unrolling themselves. And listen to me, you're never going to come to the end of your attributes.
Never.
You're eternal. And when you are finished putting the spotlight on one attribute, and you've detailed it all out, then you're going to use it throughout the rest of eternity with that understanding, and you're going to move to something else. And you're always going to have that understanding. And you're always going to carry it with you from then on. Understanding is something you gain by creation. That's why we brought creation here. The Spirit had feeling, emotion, intuition, began to use it by partaking in the creation. Being holistic attributes of iniquity arose within the Spirit because he started taking all that he was and putting it into creation. And all that he was a holistic being which held everything in him, including imperfection, iniquity, problems, laws, rules, and regulations that the Spirit didn't even like. But they were laying inside him. And as
chaos.
That's right, chaos, laying right within inside him. And as it came out and manifested itself, we said, ooh, this doesn't feel good. So what he done was he took the iniquity and the attributes of iniquity and the attributes of righteousness, and he said to himself, and we said to ourselves, this righteousness feels right. This joy and peace feels right. This love, oh, this is great. My intuition, everything, this feels right. This feels correct. This feels like something I want. But this over here, this anger, this jealousy, this sickness, this all of these things, this don't feel right. So what did we do in a spiritual mode, just like you do in humanity? When a disease comes up, what's the first thing humanity does? Begins to look for a cure. They find it in mold, they find it in plants, they find it in everything. They look for a cure till they find it, and then vaccinate everyone or begin to have everyone partake of that cure. Well, remember, in the beginning, he created man in his own image. So all of these attributes that you see man doing, the Holy Spirit's doing it. And every time an attribute rolls out of him that has something that he doesn't feel good about, and those things laid in him, he begins to develop that and begins to recast it and begins to make it to where it is something he can live with, something that he feels good with, something that he feels correct and right with, and then he has control over his holistic being. You do the same thing. You're not going to live in something you don't feel good about. You're not going to push yourself to do that. You're not going to go out here and put yourself in a situation where that you got to live your whole life not feeling good about it. You know what you'll do? You'll turn from, if you can't correct it, sooner or later you'll turn from it. You'll walk away from it. You'll do whatever you have to do to get that thing out of your life that doesn't feel good. You'll take medicines, you'll take herbs, you'll exercise, you'll walk, you'll eat proper, you'll do all kinds of things to get rid of something you don't feel good about. And the Holy Spirit is the same way. It is the Holy Spirit, the image of himself, doing all that he can to break out of every attribute that unrolled that he didn't feel good about. But Brother Parnell, how can he even be our God if he's got to go through the same thing we're going through? Well, number one, you should be past him being your God. We should be long past that now. And number two, if the Spirit can't learn anymore, we've come to a point we can't learn anymore, because we are the Spirit. We are all those things. So the holistic attributes of iniquity, the attributes of righteousness, the attributes of eternal, all these things laid inside him and arose within the Spirit. And it didn't feel good to the Spirit, so the Spirit began to develop and change and recast that attribute that came out of him. He did it when he put Adam into the earth. Coming into the sexual relationship, the Spirit had to start over. He had to start over. He had never had a feeling like that. He had never had a feeling from the moment he was birthed to have to start working and sweating and pushing himself for all that the human being does and waiting on death. You know, this is not a good feeling. And he knows that. The Spirit knows that. So what did he do? He began to push away in order to remove the sting of death. So we see him here. Now, he arose in the Spirit. He didn't like the feeling in this iniquity, so he moved to finish it. He moved to recast iniquity. He moved to get sin, if you want to call it that, out of it. He didn't like the feeling of unbelief.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like the feeling of sin. He didn't like the feeling of sickness. He didn't like those things, although those things rolled right out of him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like them, just like you don't like certain things. I said it Friday night. I said, all of us were made in the image of what we were in the spirit. I said, you take two sheets, take lay one down over here and one down over here, and then I say to you, okay, I want you to take a pen, a pencil. I want you to write down all the things you like about yourself on one sheet, and all the things you don't like about yourself on another sheet. And if you'll take the time and do it, you'll fill both sheets up.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be things you just flat out right love about yourself, and there'll be things you don't like about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that the Holy Spirit would be any different?
Mm-hmm.
He has those things, and he recasts. He takes this page over here that says dislikes.
Mm-hmm.
He takes this page over here that says likes, and he knows that he's got to live with both of them. So I'm going to recast this dislike over here, and I'm going to mend it and make it and bring it into, even though it's something that I dislike, I'm going to bring it into the page that recast it in such a way that I like it. It's okay. I'll get by with it. It's something that you do in creation to understand yourself. That's why we had creation. So the Spirit, it didn't like some of the feelings it had. So it moved to finish those, to change them, or to transform that part of himself. Just like you do. You transform that part of yourself that you don't like all the time. So the Spirit created a body. He's got an entire body of the earth, but he created a human body. And that body was Jesus. And he used that body for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand who you are yet? You say, oh, the Spirit didn't need those things for himself. He made man in his image. He needed those things for himself. He created a body and used that body as an intercessor between the likes and the dislikes. He put an intercessor in here. And when he put the intercessor in there, it's a propitiation for this guy over here with all these likes to reconcile this part over here of all the dislikes. Reconcile it to yourself and recast it and make it something that you like, that you can control, that you can live with. So the Spirit created a body and used that body as an intercessor, as a propitiation, as a mediator. When the one over here, it's the same Spirit, and this Spirit over here dis so much that it says, I'll just destroy them all. I'll destroy them all, and I will start a brand new nation. That's what I'll do. Because these people, I brought them out of Egypt, and they will not listen. They are full of unbelief. They are full of all these problems. And I'm going to walk down off the mountain, and just like I dropped 50,000 of them into the earth, I'm going to get rid of them all and restart over again. This guy over here with all these likes got fed up with all these dislikes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because he had a mediator, he had an intercessor, he had a propitiation, he had set that in gear, set it into place, he stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And he began to think. And he said, you know what? Yeah, I like, just look at a family situation. I like this child over here because it acts so good, it's so sweet, it's so humble, it's so loving. And this one over here won't even let me hug it. It acts so mean. It does these things, it does that things. And this one with all the likes said, I'll destroy this one and I'll keep this one. And something on the inside said, don't you do that. Take this one over here that you don't like and make him, recast him, mold him, and develop him to where he's like the other one. And that's what we are doing with ourselves. We have within us a holistic view and a holistic nature, and we have a body. You want to know who Don Parnell's intercessor is? Right here. You want to know who my propitiation is? Right here. You want to know who Sister Norod's is? Sitting right there in that seat. And every time you get so angry at yourself that you say, I ain't good enough, I ain't this, I ain't that, I'm going to get rid of this, I'm going to get rid of that, you got to stop. You got to come to propitiation. You got to come to mediation, and you got to say to yourself, you know what? I can't just throw away part of me. I have to deal with it. I have to recast it. I have to develop it. Yes, there are two things in me. There are likes and dislikes, and I need to bring them together and develop them. The Spirit did that. The body, as an intercessor, a propitiation. And then what did he do? He took that body that came through the womb of a woman, was subject to the law, tutored and governed under the law, sweated, cried, wept, was in swaddling cloth. All of those things that he came up, he took that body that he didn't feel so good in. It got hot, it got cold, it got sick, it got headaches, it got everything. And he took that body and he destroyed it. Remember, we know what the word destroy means. It means changed it. He destroyed it by placing all the iniquity on that. Placed all the iniquity of the world, everything. Everything that he felt against Adam, everything that he felt against Balaam, everything that he felt against Korah and Dathan, everything that he felt like destroying things. Everything that he felt, he took this body that he had created of himself, and he put all of those feelings of iniquity and everything else in him, of all that anger and everything, and he put it right on that body. And then he took that body, put it on Calvary, and that body hung there with the entire process of the world, the entire process of Lucifer and the serpent and the devil and Satan and the red dragon. That entire process, he nailed it to that tree.
Finished.
He finished it, and Jesus hung there and cried out, "It is finished." What was finished? He had reconciled the dislikes. He had brought all of it back in line, and he brought it to where he could now, because he had conquered those things, developed those things, he could be the leader of a brand new creation. And in so doing, the Spirit had changed his character, his feelings. That's why you don't see 50,000 people falling into the earth at a time anymore. That's why you don't see bubonic plagues, and you don't see all these things striking the earth the way it used to, because he moved up through his feelings. You don't see all of these things happening the way it used to, because he moved through his feelings and he corrected so many things through this body that hung on Calvary. He took his feelings and he transformed himself through that body and made that body the process. No, Brother Parnell, he didn't do you know what he said? He said, as the serpent hung on that pole in the wilderness, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. He's going to go up there and he's going to become the process, the serpent. He's going to become the iniquity hanging on that tree, and he is going to finish it and do away with it and bring a brand new creation. That's what the Spirit done. The Spirit had changed his character and his feelings, and his transformation did away with the iniquity that he had within himself. That's why I so trust. I don't care. I don't mean to say it like that. I don't worry when something comes up in my life that I don't like. I don't worry about it. I say to myself, This is just another thing that I am going to develop and use. And many things have come up through my life that I didn't know what to do with them until I come to this understanding and this revelation. And I know it was pinned to that body that hung on a tree. And I know that this body is an extension of that. And this is my intercessor. This body went through a death, burial, and resurrection. This body changes its character, goes through transformation, and becomes the great thing that we always wanted, a reconciliation of the world unto ourselves. So, when he was talking, his transformation did away with his iniquity. You remember what he said in Matthew 25, I think it is? Depart from me, you workers of iniquity. Notice what he said. Depart from me. It was in him. He wasn't talking to something out here and saying, you get away from me, you're a worker of iniquity. He's talking to himself. Depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew you. You know what the word "new" means? Relationship.
Yeah, the relationship.
I have never had a relationship with you. I have recast you and made you into something else that I can live with, that I can walk in, that I can be. I have done away with my iniquity. Depart from me, ye worker of iniquity. You that would make me turn against myself. You that would make me dislike myself. You that would do all these things. Depart from me. I never knew you. I don't want that relationship with you. I want to have a greater relationship. And in his own words, he was speaking about himself and how he didn't want a relationship with those attributes that were less than what he wanted to be. He didn't want a relationship with them, and he changed those things at Calvary. Long awaited process coming through theophany civilization for I don't know how long. Eternity lays outside of time. Time is just a little draw of eternity. Then he went into spoken word and it's still laid there. And then he came into humanity and it's still laid there until he created that womb, made a process, took his iniquity, took his body, hung it on a tree, and then when all of that sin, what did Paul say? He took your unrighteousness that you might become the righteousness of Christ. So here we are now in a process of reconciling ourselves with this body, with that body. We're reconciling ourselves all the time. We're bringing ourselves back to a favorable world, to a favorable being, to a being that is favored by the Spirit, and he's doing it by developing all of those likes and dislikes that are in us. You say, I've never heard anything quite like this, Brother Cornell. I haven't either.
Just wait till next year.
But these are the things we see in 2019. As I go through this, 2019, we went through a lot of cycles about ourselves. We couldn't understand why we had certain things about us, all the way up till 2019. And in 2019, we really, in 16, 17, 18, we were pushing in this direction. But to really understand ourselves, we pulled it all together and recognized a holistic being just in the last year or so that we are easily able to live with. I can live. It doesn't matter what shows up in my life. I know how to use it, control it, recast it, make it something that I can live with. Make it something that I can be. Make it something that I can learn from. Make it something that I can develop myself with. So I'm not worried about what crops up. I was watching Donald Trump the other day, and he was on The View back when he was thinking about running for president. And of course, all the ladies on The View was hitting him up. You gonna run? You gonna run? You gonna do this? If you run, we don't think you'd be such a good president. And then one of them asked him, said, "What are your weak points? What do you feel your weak points are?" And Donald Trump backed at him and said, "You think I'm going to tell you that?" He said, "I watch these people, celebrities and presidents and governors and all these people, and as soon as they tell a weakness," he said, "you destroy them." Mm-hmm. He said, "If I got any weaknesses, I'm keeping my mouth shut. I'll just develop them where they don't show up." That's what he said, and I thought, yeah, that's it. If you got weaknesses, why spread those things out? In my weaknesses, I am made strong. That doesn't mean broadcast your weaknesses and I'll be made strong in it. You do that and you're going to be a person that gets beat up and hated all the time and pushed aside and everything else. You don't broadcast your weaknesses. You turn inward and you find ways to shore those up. You find ways to develop them. And you say to yourself after a while, I don't have that weakness anymore.
Right.
I have developed it, and it has become one of my strengths. So we looked at all these cycles in 2019, and I wrote some of them down, and I know I'm not going to just go through all of it because it'd take forever, but the cycles of the candles or the chakra, and how that they lit up inside your body, going to the individual cycles and looking at these, rather than looking at it as something outside of you. We pulled them all inside of us, and said, let's look at them this way. The candles in the 7 church ages in the book of Revelation became the chakra within our own body, and how that these lights lit up. And so we became the light of the world. You are a city set on a hill, and that light is shining. Don't put a bushel on it and a basket on it and hide it, and on and on and on. So we came to an understanding of these cycles within us. The cycle of candles. You had Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. That was 7 movements in the earth, but those movements were inside you. If you go back now and you think about those candles as being movements inside you, and you read them again, and you'll see how that you left your first love, or you came out of the spoken word into humanity, and then you went into Smyrna, which is bitterness. And then when you went into that bitterness, you had to begin to develop all these things around you that you weren't used to and you didn't know anything about, and you stepped into the unknown, and you began to take the unknown and break it into an understanding, and you came into Pergamos, where Satan himself sat on the seat of the throne. Inside Pergamos, he took the throne. Satan, these processes, they begin to take us over and overwhelm us, and then we come into Thyatira, where the whole theme of Thyatira was be faithful until death, and you'll receive a crown of life. And it got so horrible during that 1,000-year reign out here in the earth that they were slaughtering and slaughtering and slaughtering, and it went through 68 million people being slaughtered over Christianity, and of course slaughtered over many, many, many other things, because you were a certain race of people, because you were a certain nation, because of certain genetics, because of that. They were just going through a chaotic slaughtering mode throughout Thyatira, just like you do when you step into the middle of something and you don't know how to handle it and you're trying to bring it to yourself. And then they went into Sardis. And Sardis means dead. is what it means. No life in it. But inside there was that little guy named Luther who began to pull himself up and became two little blades sticking up out of the ground. Just exactly the way you do. When you come to total death and chaos throughout the Ephesus, Smyrna, and Pergamos and Thyatira, then those two little blades begin to come up in your life and you say, I feel better about myself. Mm-hmm. It's the chakra going on inside you. And those blades go through a process and push you right out to where you become the wheat. Mm-hmm. As you come through Philadelphia, the church age of love, and as you come through Laodicea, and all of these things, you travel all the way through that candles and chakra. We had these cycles that we talked about. Instead of looking at it as 7 church ages and 7 manifestations in the earth from the year 33 AD or 53 AD until Sunset Mountain, that's great. What did that do for you? It's a lot of knowledge, isn't it? It's a lot of knowledge. You got to read books, figure it out. What about what's inside you? Stop looking at what's outside and turn inside and look at how those candles and all those manifestations out here were an image of what's going on in here. The candles, the resurrection. You know what I'm talking about when I say resurrection. We went through that in the book of Revelations, how that you come through the resurrection and the body change and the carrying away, the going up higher, the rapture, whatever you want to call it, and then into the wedding supper and the tribulation period as you eat and you're sitting right in that bitterness of how you feel about everything, and then you come right from the wedding supper and the tribulation period into the battle of Armageddon, the slaughtering of all things, and the millennial reign. And then as you come to the end of that millennial reign, you come to another, quote, unrest. And you come through Gog and Magog, the great battle, and it burns everything up. And when it burns everything up, you come out into new heaven and new earth, into a total rest. So the whole cycle of the resurrection is going on in you all the time. You catch something with your eye. You understand with your eye of understanding. The third eye picks it up. And you have a body change. Or you develop yourself to put that in your life. This thing that you caught and understood. And as you put that into your life, after you have a body change, you go into a rapture or a carrying you up higher in an understanding of how you should be. And then what takes place? You begin to eat on a wedding supper, or you begin to eat on the new food of what you just found out about yourself. And as you eat on that new food, you know what it does? It begins to cast off and recast who you are, or you go through tribulation. You're not sure exactly what to do. You go through great tribulation, and you come out on the other side in a millennial reign after you've gone through your battle of Armageddon and all these things happen to you. You step out into a millennial reign, and it's a short period of rest, and the devil is loosed for another season. Boom, you go right back, you catch something else. And you come through a body change, you come through a rapture, you come through tribulation or wedding supper, and bang, you come out into a temporary rest. Boy, this feels good. And man, about 2 weeks later, boom, here it comes again. Resurrection, body change, rapture, wedding supper, and tribulation, and out into another little millennium, and then the devil's loosed again for a season. So the devil's just a process that keeps you rotating back until you learn those things about yourself that you need to learn. I really believe that you can go through more than one experience many, many, many times until you learn who you are and how to cope with that thing. You know, they have reincarnation, they have all kinds of things that they try to make it, and all of those have a certain little bit of truth about them. But there is this one truth for sure. However it's going to happen, you're going to keep going through something until you cope with it and learn it and bring it into your life and get rid of the chaos and come to some establishment and organization and control of that thing. It might be 1 marriage, 2 marriages, 3 marriages, 4, 5, 6. It might be 7 or 8 deaths. It might be coming back, do it. Whatever has to happen to you, it's going to happen until you learn that thing. That's your resurrection cycle. You step out into new heaven and new earth. These are the things we looked at and took them out of the cosmos, out of the earthly manifestation. We put them in ourselves and said, these are the things going on in me. This is 2019. The darkness to light. The dimensions. We changed up those dimensions to understand ourselves. If I throw 7 dimensions out there and say they're out there, and after you're done with this dimension, you're going to step in that one, and this linear move will take place over here, and you'll step out of this. What's that do for you? It doesn't do anything for you. But if I take those and I pull them inside, and maybe give them a little different name so that I understand myself. Space, the first dimension, is just darkness. And when you come through that darkness, then the next thing you have is elements. Because what did the Lord do? He created. You come out of the darkness and out of the space, out of all those things. He created. And when he created the elements. And what do? You put on elements. And then the next thing you do is you step into time. This is going on in you all the time. You have a darkness about you. You don't know what to do. You don't understand it. You step into that unknown. You feel it. You work with it. You think about it. You practice. You keep searching and hunting until the light comes on. You step into that time. You coordinate it, you control it, and then you move over into the whole concept of science. And that's how to develop it, this thing that I have found out about myself. And then you step into unrest. And when you step into unrest, the unrest comes because you're trying to figure yourself out. You're trying to bring these things into your life. And then after the unrest, there comes some enlightenment about yourself. You say, I changed this thing up and it's pretty good now. And, everybody else in the world might not think so. But for you, it feels good. And that's what I'm talking about this morning, is finding your feelings, finding your emotion, developing all these things, bringing it from unknown to known, and make it to where it works in your life. If you can't take everything that you have ever learned and make it work, it didn't do you any good and it didn't fit. I have a lot of things that didn't fit in my life and I just moved them out because they don't fit. And I leave them lay there until I come around and all of a sudden some situation will come up and I'll say, oh, that's why this happened. I did need this. Develop it. And it goes on all the time in your life. And you move into enlightenment. The next thing you move into is arrest. From unrest to enlightenment. Oh, okay. And then arrest. You have relaxation. You have reflexation. You kind of look at it and you keep tweaking and you keep doing things to develop everything in your life. It's cycles. We talked about the process of Lucifer. It's cycles. Started out as Lucifer. Next thing you see him as in Genesis 3 is a serpent. And the next thing you see him as Moses talked about him, was the devil and Satan, the goat heads, all of those kind of things that were symbols. And the next thing you see him as, after the devil and after Satan, the red dragon. What is it? It's processes that you came into in life. This body is a process. You built this process for yourself so you could understand yourself. You built that process right there that you're looking at for yourself. And then you begin to move through those processes. And once you learn a process, you know what you do? You circle right back around and you become Lucifer again. And then you become the serpent, that wise old guy that begins to say, I know how to handle this a little better. And then you become the devil, or you become something that you have found about yourself in the process that you need to develop. And you become Satan, and you become the red dragon. You take in, and that process becomes red dragon, flesh and blood, walking in earth. No different than the process that I'm going to talk about right here. And that process is the movement from theophany to spoken word to humanity. That's a process of the Spirit. He has processes of darkness to light, processes of Lucifer, all the way around to the red dragon and back again. He has processes of candles. He has processes of all these things. And he had processes of civilization and how to move through them and to be who we are from theophany into spoken word and on into humanity. All of these processes going on all the time. It's 2019 that we begin to understand this. And we said to ourselves, this is good. Said the same thing we said all the way back when we created these natural things. We said, this is very good. And then we stepped into it, and these processes yanked a knot in our tail. And as we go through a process, we tie it all up, and we say to ourselves, whew, that was good. I learned a lot. So we're right back to being just like him. We have the mind's cycle. You remember what the mind cycle was? We started out with a theophany mind, and that mind evolved to put on flesh and blood, and it became a carnal mind. And then as we began to develop ourselves with that theophany carnal development, we became a spiritual being. So we moved from theophany to carnal mind to a spiritual being, and that was a process or cycles that we move through. And you know what you do? You do it every day of your life. Oh no, this new situation comes up. How am I going to handle it? Well, what's the word say? Yeah, what's the word say? Theophany talking. And you say, I don't know if I can live up to that. I'm not. You know, and the carnal mind begins to say, you know why you can't live up to it? You're going to have to recast yourself. You became flesh and blood. Mm-hmm. And flesh and blood can't do all those things that theophany used to do because we limited ourselves to learn our processes one by one in detail. So stop worrying about not being to live up to the mind of the theophany. Right. So you kind of place that over on the shelf and you say, okay, now how am I going to deal with it? And you find a way to deal with it in flesh and blood because that's what you are. You acclimate yourself to the earth, and then it may adjust from theophany a little bit. It might not be exactly that. You come to a spiritual mind. When you start understanding this cycle, you're going to stop screaming, get back to the Word, get back to the Word. You're going to stop screaming that so much, and you're going to start saying, how do I live with myself? I have to feel good about myself. I want to create something here that takes it all and puts it together and says, this is good. This has acclimated me to the earth. This is who I am. And live with it. And have no condemnation and enjoy it. So we have that going on in our life. The mind's cycle. And of course we have the zodiac, which I'm not going to start naming at all. I could go through all that. But I will just say this. The earth has been in the creation existence of the zodiac for about 20,000 years. A complete cycle of the sun moving through the zodiac is about 24,000 years. We just entered Aquarius, which would take it from 20 to 22,000. years. And then we will move into, the sun will move out of Aquarius into Capricorn, and that'll be another 2,000 years. So what we have left in the zodiac that's not been imprinted and become a part of the eternal manifestation, what we have done is come to the last 4,000 years. And we are living in Aquarius, raising ourselves in rapture, and you go through that same process every day of your life again. You come through all of that zodiac, you raise yourself in the air, and then what happens? You come right back to the earth again in Capricorn. And you start the process again. What the next process will be, I don't know. But I know this. There's about 4,000 years left in this process. And stop worrying about the world coming to an end. I don't know how many people died this morning, but I know that there's a lot of worlds that came to an end. I don't know how many people were born this morning, but I know that there are a lot of worlds that come to a beginning. It ends and begins all the time. It's a cycle. It's a process. And the whole world and all of the cosmos is going through the Aquarian process right now, and we'll move into the Capricorn process. It will have up all 12. Where are we going to go from there, Brother Parnell? Well, we know we live in a spiral. I'm sure the zodiac's going nowhere. We're just going to experience it in a different way.
That's it. That's
A spiral again. These are the things we looked at and really began to understand how they're moving in us, inside us. These are the micro things that we paid no attention to, trying to make something outside of us, trying to get the approval of something outside of us, instead of doing what's inside of us. So then we had dependence, independence, and interdependency. We had what you would call is a cycle of yourself. As you move through all these other cycles, when you just look at it like this, as an example, when you became a baby girl or boy, dropped out of the womb and you're in your mother's arms, you just moved from a cycle of theophany into carnality. You just moved from theophany to carnal mind, and then from that moment, as you learn to walk, to taste, to feel, to have emotion, to love, to hate, to have sorrow, to have glee, to have happiness, as you learn all these things, you are becoming a spiritual person. Paul said that which is carnal is first, and then that which is spiritual. So we came out of theophany into carnal, and here in this earth, carnal is first, and we develop that carnality into a spiritual being. That's what I'm talking about. So you go through dependence. I depend on my mother. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be sitting here today with all of the love and the care and the taking care of me and the feeding me and the bathing me and the teaching me and singing the songs to me and me learning all these things from her. If it wasn't for Mama, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And then what happens? That's a total dependency. But as I moved up, it moved kind of from Mama to teacher, to whoever it might be that begins to develop me in my dependency. And then it moves from that to a career. When I have a boss or I have this or that, that's developing me in my dependency. You're going through dependency all the time. You marry a wife or you marry a husband and you begin to develop dependency again. And the wife normally is the one developing the husband. It's not the other way around. The husband, you know, a wife, I don't know whether you know it or not, but a girl, the frontal lobe develops at about 12 years old. And they begin to take on the concepts of, you know what, I'm headed into a life where I'm going to have babies, I'm going to have a husband, I'm going to have I'm going to have a career. I'm going to have this and that and the other. And they begin to develop in a maturity at 12 years old, whereas a male,
Just want to play ball.
it's, yeah, they want to play ball, you know, whatever. A male at 30 years old develops in the frontal lobe and becomes a responsible being. So when you marry at 16, 17, or 18, or 20, who's developing that male for the next 10 years, 15 years? It's that wife sitting next to him. Is developing that male and the way he thinks, the way he acts, the way he walks. He needs that woman. It doesn't say that the wife would leave her mother or father and cleave to the husband. Read your scripture. It says that the man will leave mother and father and cleave to the wife. Cleave means join together. In other words, that wife is going to further develop that man. And when you have marriage, thinking of it any other way, headship or whatever, you're just asking for trouble. When that half nitwit starts thinking that he's ruling, that one is sitting there that's got 10 times the mind he has.
So what you're saying is that outward process is a reflection of an inward process that everyone goes through.
That's right.
The female aspect of you, whether you're in a male or female body, develops first. Then later comes the male. It's a process that we see between a male and a female, but it happens inside each one of us, going, who's in charge first, who's in charge second, who's changing what, so there's cycles to where the female part of you is dominant, and then there's cycles where the male part of you is dominant. So what you're saying is something that not just goes on out here, but it also goes on
right
inside
here.
yourself.
In us,
Yes.
every single
Yes.
day. So you have dependence working in you. You have independence working in you. And that meaning, if I have to, I can develop, evolve, and make it on my own. And when you have that dependence working and that independence begins to work in you at a certain age, then you move to the understanding that, you know what? This road would be a whole lot easier if I had friends and fellowship and companions and husband and wife and, you know, on and on and on. It would feel so much better. So what do? You begin to develop that interdependency with one another. And just for a second, that goes on inside you. That's why you look and you seek for friends. You look and you seek for a husband or a wife. And you hope to have children. Because all of that is interdependency upon one another. That mother, even though she's the one that's so working with that child to take care of it that first 9 months, year, 2 years, 3 years, at the same time, that's an interdependency because that mother wanted that sweet little thing for so long that it's developing her love, her intercession, her mediation, her care. It's developing everything about her. So it's all interdependency all the time. Same way on the inside of you. That interdependency between the male and the female, between your relationships, between your love, and it's all going on cycles of dependence, interdependence, or independence and interdependency all the time. And then just recently, we talked about the mind and the heart. Earlier in the year, we talked about it some, and we just kind of left it lay. But we come to that point that we see the mind and the heart as the male-female. It joins together. It becomes one, and it uses you. You use it to develop your body, to develop your relationships, to hear from the heart, to have understanding, to cast away some seed that comes to your mind, to put it aside, to take other seed into your heart, have that baby, develop it, live with that thing and say, this is good. All of those things are going on inside you. The mind and the heart. I used to call it the Jericho Road. You know, that road that goes from here to here, it travels from the mind to the heart. It's a Jericho. It's a road that you travel all by yourself. And you develop that thing to where you understand who you are, the mind and the heart. If you hear a little bit of noise in the background, it's really raining hard here right now. So I know you're probably hearing it, just thinking, what in the world's going on? we're in a sunroom and we're watching it, and it's just really coming down. And of course, the roof, you're hearing it hit the roof. So those are some of the things that we have developed about ourselves in 2019. I went back through, there are so many things that I left laying there and just said, if we can get these core things and understand ourselves, all of that other will develop itself within us without us even putting forth any effort. It's just that life will flow. After a while, you know, you plant yourself in a little flower garden, and then you just step back and watch it. And more and more flowers just keep coming out, and they keep coming up, and they fill themselves up, and it becomes a beautiful thing. That's exactly where we're at now. These things have come up. They have become a part of our process, a part of our life. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you learn. What I do care about is how you're going to handle that, what you're going to do with it, and how is it going to develop in your life. I don't care if you have an MBA. I don't care if you've been a janitor. I don't care if you came through the 3rd grade. I don't care if you've been married 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. I don't care. When I meet you, I'm looking at you as one thing, a human being who has been through unbelievable processes, and if I can tap into those processes and into that love that you're holding, into those things that you have in your heart, I'm going to be the better person. It's going to move in me, and I'm going to fill up, and I'm going to receive things from you. And on the other hand, I'm hoping that you enter the process in the same manner and say, what can I gain from a Tory, from Don Parnell? What can I develop? Why did this man enter my life? And exactly how can I develop myself with him? You become interdependent with one another. So we're looking at 2020. Wednesday, I guess it is. That's just a couple of days away. 2019's behind us. 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. We've been 6 years developing these things in our life. We're going to be 6 more, and 20 more, and 30 more, and 50 more. And whatever more, because there's no end to these things. We'll spiral back around and pick something else up. We'll spiral back around and pick something else up over here. We'll add this in. We'll say to ourselves, you know what? This is a new generation. This is a new day in the year 2050. And we'll say those things that Don Parnell taught back here in 2019, they don't quite fit today. And you're going to have to change them up. I'm here for my generation. I'm teaching for my generation. I'm moving with my generation. And I will live with my generation throughout eternity. You have your generation. And you are going to go beyond where I am. You are going to see more things. You are going to understand more things. You, the youth and the young people, don't sit there and say, whew, man, I'm glad we got under this message because this is everything. You think this is everything. It's going to continue to develop, spiral back around, catch more, lay this down, put this aside. This doesn't fit anymore. Pull this aside. Doesn't mean that guy was wrong. Doesn't mean back there in 2015 when Don Parnell was teaching those things. Don't mean it was wrong. But over here in 2055, it don't quite work. And you'll change it up. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. We've done it in every generation. We've done it in every lifestyle. We've come through everything. And you continually change things up. That's why I listen. I listened to Kit Gomez when he was just yesterday and the day before, when he was talking. They had him live on the internet at the fellowship. And then I listened to him in the church there at Sister Salo's house. And I listened to the things he had to say. A lot of it was in Tagalog, so I just felt good about sitting there and just feeling the fellowship. But then he would say some things in English, and they were good. He's 20-some years younger than me. I'm learning from him. And I'm doing that with many, many, many brethren. I just named him for an example because that's what I've done the last couple of days. But there are many, many brethren, by the hundreds, and sisters out there everywhere that I catch and learn from continually. Because I want to, as long as I'm alive, I want to change and change and change and change. 2020 is going to be a change. Before, you used to say to yourself, what in the world am I doing? What good is going on in my life with all of these problems I had? And my children don't love me. I've done things to them, and I wish I had it to do over again. And I'm not good enough. And there's a little story, you know, and I read it, and it was at an auction. There were hundreds of people there. And an elderly man and his wife had died, and it was an estate auction. And so they had all their things up for sale. And certain ones bought this and certain ones bought that. And there was an old violin sitting there. And so the auctioneer picked it up, and he said, you know, who will give $100 for this violin? Nobody spoke up. And the auctioneer said, $50. Nobody spoke up. And the auctioneer said, $10. Who will give $10? Nobody raised their hand. And while he was standing there going through that process about what was the value and what was the worth of this violin, nobody thought it was worth anything. And this old guy walked up there while he was going on and saying it, and he picked it up. And he began to play it. And he played some songs on it. And all of a sudden, somebody raised their hand for $10, $50, $100, $1,000. And all of a sudden, that thing became worth thousands of dollars. And the auctioneer sold it for that. Because people recognized its value. They recognized its worth. I believe 2020 is going to do that for you and us. I believe we're going to begin in a great way to recognize our value. Why did we come through these processes? What is my value? What good did it do me? You're going to begin to see the good that it has done for you. You're going to begin to feel the things that all these teachings have done for you. You've had those things, you had those feelings, but I'm talking about moving into some real depths of understanding about what it did for you, how you developed your child so much better, how you developed your mind so much better, how you were able to use it in your career, how you were able to, and on and on and on. And you're going to look at these processes that you have developed in you and made them a part of your life, and you're going to see the value of them in your life. You're going to feel the value of them in 2020. Everything's going to begin to come together as to why you walked the road that you walked and why you're sitting in here this morning or up there in that broadcast today. You're going to develop those things in you. You're going to develop the understanding of your worth. We never thought we were worth much. we thought, I can't live up to the theophany. I can't live up to the logic. I can't live up to the word. Therefore, I am no good. I'm not worth anything. My worth is cheap. Who I am doesn't work. I don't like myself, and not very many around me like me. It's going to change. In 2020, you're going to begin to recognize your worth because the music started playing. And when the music started playing, $10, $50, $500, $1,000, you're going to begin to recognize your worth. And those condemnation feelings are going to begin. You're going to feel them subsiding. Things that you pushed yourself into the dirt over are going to begin to pull back. You may have come through many things. You may have come through all kinds of things that we would call sin. You're going to push those aside, and you're going to develop those things, and you're going to feel yourself, because you know what you did in 2018 and 19, and these processes that we looked at? You pulled everything from the outside to the inside. I couldn't handle the devil outside of me. I can't control something outside of me. I couldn't handle the spirit outside of me. So therefore, I was in constant chaos on exactly what do I do. And now I've pulled those things inside me. And if there is a devil, I'll deal with it. If there's a demon, I will deal with it. It's mine, and I'll deal with it. If there is righteousness, if there is love, if there is a God, I will deal with it, because that's who I am. And we've come through a couple of years of really looking close at that, and you're going to see it really develop in your life now. Because everything that happens, you're going to stop putting it out there. So-and-so's fault. Government's fault. This one's fault. That one's fault. My teacher's fault. My mom and dad's fault. You're going to pull it inside and say, I got to change this. I got to understand who I am. Everything that goes on is me. If there's love, it's me. If there's long suffering, it's me. If there's joy or happiness, it's me. And if there's sorrow and hurt and those things, iniquity, it's me. And I will deal with all these things and bring them into my process. And I will make my creation very good. I will understand it. So we have that happening. We build our worth. This year is a great year for that. We build our value. We take the things that we have learned and begin to build on those things. In joining spirituality and science and humanity, that's one of the things that will really develop you this year. Because we're not throwing science out. We're not throwing out the devil and saying, I can't control him anyway. Go on, shoot, get away. We're not doing that anymore. We're dealing with it. And we are enjoining our spirituality of that inner being and the science of it all. We're enjoining it together, becoming one with it. We're acclimating our understanding with the earth. We're not trying to acclimate our understanding with the Word, with the Bible. I got to live this way, I got to live that way. And really, to hell with the earth. Don't want nothing to do with anybody. Live with them, don't want to live around them. I got to separate myself. That's all done. It's over. We're acclimating ourselves and our understanding to the earth now. This is our home. Make it a good home for yourself. Make it feel good for you. Enjoy it. Making necessary adjustments. Recasting our weaknesses to match our strengths, to become strong. Every time we run into a weakness, you don't have to blurt it out. You don't have to tell everybody where that weakness, but you just internally begin to build it and make it a strength of yours. Learning cycles and processes that we need to begin and end. We're ending a lot of cycles and processes, but we have talked about a lot of cycles and things that we are still in, and we're going to move into more cycles. As we do, I'm trusting your spirit and yours out there, that we will recognize it, and you're going to help me recognize it, and I'm going to help you recognize it, because we're in this thing together. We're in this thing together. So we'll make those necessary adjustments, learning cycles and processes that we need to begin and end with. We're going to level the playing field. That's a good way to put it. We're going to level the playing field in this resurrection age. What are you talking about, Brother Parnell? No hierarchies. Those things are done in your life. No male, female. Those things are done in your life. In Christ, there's neither male nor female. There's no gender. There's no ethnics. There's none of those things. We're in Christ. And we level the playing field, whether it's a lady or whether it's a man. That lady has a male inside her that is just as strong as the male inside me. And I'm a man and I have a female in me that's just as strong as your female, even though your body is dominant female. We all have within us the male-female relationship, and we're going to level the playing field and stop looking at one another as somebody superior and the head of the household, and if you don't listen to me, all hell's going to break loose here. And we're going to level that playing field and say, we need to do this thing together. We need to love one another. It's not a 50-50 relationship inside here. It's 100-100. And it's not a 50-50 in a family relationship outside. It's 100-100. And we all come in this together, level out the playing field, love one another. Oh, but he has such a righteous life. He should be the leader. And he has a horrible life. He was a drunk. He got all caught up on the opioids. And he got married. Look at him. He's in his 4th marriage. Stop it. Just stop it. Level the playing field. They are the same in Christ. Bring them together. I can use the experiences of this guy over here that had all those troubles as much as I can use the experiences of this holy, righteous fellow over here who just didn't have near the trouble. I can use them both. And neither one of them is better than the other. But that lady, you know, she's this and she's that. And she's a bad woman and she was a prostitute and she was a... Jesus ran into a few like that. And he said, neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. He looked at that woman and said, you have had 5 husbands and the one you're living with now is not yours. And it's okay. She didn't even come to the well at the same time as the virgins. The virgins come in the morning, the little sweethearts. They came in the morning and got their water, and the prostitutes would come after the virgins were done because they would dirty up the virgins. Well, let me tell you, Jesus chose the prostitute that came in and washed his feet with her tears and with her hair. He chose the prostitute that they threw down in front of him over top of them. He chose, and we need to come to that playing field to where it's all level. We need to come to that playing field that says, let's play in the right field. Let's not try and play in the theophany field where everybody's got to be the Word and everybody's got to be perfect, and if you don't, you're on your way to hell. Let's not play in the carnal field that says, I'm going to run out here and do anything I want. I'm going to live with this one and live with that, and I'm going to get drunk and I'm going to do this. I can do anything. I can just do it all. It's mine and I'll do it, and I don't care what anybody says. Let's not play in that field. Let's level the field out, and let's play in the spiritual field, all of us in the field together. In the spiritual field,
and take all the tools and all the processes that we've learned and help one another. That's what this is about. 2020 is about these things. We are going to come to these things. We are living in these things, and they are going to become stronger and stronger in us. It's 2 days away. That date doesn't mean a lot to me, but when you spread it out over a year, we're going to have some real things happening.
Yep.
We're going to see so many things outside of us develop. We're going to see elections. We're going to see people raise up that didn't like it. We're going to see people raise up that did like it. We're going to see all kinds of laws passed. We're going to watch all this on the outside of us, and it's going to get kind of tight. I can tell you it's going to get kind of tight. I can see it all over the world. But we have what we need to get through this together. We're going to see all kinds of things happen spiritually. I was talking with a brother just the other day, and he said, I'm just not on your path, Brother Parnell. I'm not on your path anymore. I used to believe what you believe, but I don't believe it anymore. And he said, I'm not going there. And I said, well, brother, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll wait here for you. I love you. He said, no need of waiting. I'm not on your path. I said, oh, it'll come back. You'll come back to this path because you have to come to love divine. It's going to be a part of you. The process you're going to follow is not going to be the same process I followed. But down here, somewhere, the maze leads to the way out. And we're going to meet right there. And I'm going to wait right here because my love tells me you're just as much a part of me as anybody else. I don't think he knew how to take that. There wasn't a whole lot more to the conversation. I think he expected me to just blast him and do everything. And when I put that love out there, it was kind of surprising to different ones. That's where we're at. Oh, I may get a little upset at somebody. You may read where I, backhanded them accidentally. Didn't mean to.
Accidentally on purpose.
Yeah. And when you see that in me, I see it in a lot of you in a lot of ways. And you know what I do? I look over it. You that are out there that I've traveled with, you that are sitting in here, I see it in a lot of us, in a lot of ways. I see that raise up, and I say to myself, that's all right. And I look right over it, and we keep walking, and I never mention it. Because we've got to come to a level playing field. To work in this field with one another. In 2020, we're moving in that direction very strong. I don't know what time it is.
11:32.
I wanted to take just a minute and say, open it up, which Sunday I usually try to bring something, but I wanted to open it up for just a minute. Is there anything that you'd like to say about 2019 or about the vision of where we're headed in 2020? I believe the motto that I put out for 2020 was, I can't remember the exact word, but spirituality and science combined brings us to a clear understanding. That's 2020. Bring it all in. Bring all the data you can in. Look, hunt, enjoy, read, develop. You don't have to get it all from Don Parnell. In fact, please bring me some that I don't know. I want it. I want to enjoy. I want to hear from you. I want to live on the same playing field with one another. So is there anything that, and you better keep this for the live broadcast if you want to. Is there anything you want to say?
Like you said, we're all in this together. This journey. This year I've learned developed, discovered so much about myself. And I discovered that through fellowship with you. and you've helped me to learn more about myself. I've learned more about you. It's been a great journey this year. There's a lot more I want to do next year, a lot more personal development within myself, how to handle my family in a different way, and not handle as in the sense of manipulating, but my way of looking at things in my family, how I can change myself to make myself a better person for my family, a better husband for my wife, which I'm sure she would love to have a better husband for herself, a better father for my children. And just, I want to make myself a better person for all of you. And I enjoy the fellowship. I enjoy seeing the things on the website, on Facebook. You know, all you brothers and sisters that are together at the convention. I'm not sure what you're titling it, but I wish we were there with you. I really do.
Spirituality and science is what.
Okay. Yes, you're right. I saw the banner. Yes. I wish we were there with you in the physical, enjoying fellowship. That would be tremendous. But anyway, thank you for a wonderful year, and I'm looking forward to this new year coming and a new me.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll say this. Overall, I see becoming aware of our spirituality, because we've been aware of our carnality forever. Becoming aware of our spirituality is the movement in the earth, and the focus is love divine. And when I look at that, and I see the contrast with people, I just want to say one thing. You were meant for this, or you would not be here now. If you were meant to be in something else other than the focus on love divine right now, in this day and time. So don't ever think that whatever happens is overwhelming, because you were meant to be here and deal with this and develop yourself at this particular time. So don't ever lose heart with yourself. Always understand you're exactly where you need to be in this day and age for catching the unfolding.
Yes. Is there anything, sister?
These, well, years back, when I started listening to all this, changed my life completely, because I grew up like, don't believe that, don't do that. And I love this because I always want to be able to help myself and understand myself to help others. And it's wonderful to know who you are and knowing that you're worthy.
Yes. Amen. You're worthy.
You're worthy to be here. And I am too. Happy New Year to everybody.
Yes. Sister Nora? Yeah. Okay. So we are coming to 2020. It's a year of development in a whole different way. We listen to a lot of things about spirituality. We listen to a lot of things about science. I'll put it like this. It's a year of practical application coming up. Letting these things, and I'm not talking about applying them to where I got this sheet of paper at home and I got 21 things that I got to apply this year. That's what I'm talking about. That's not it. I'm talking about feeling it, applying it, feeling it in your playing field. You know, John the Baptist came, and the scripture said about him in the book of Isaiah that he would take every mountain and make it level, and he would take every valley and make it high. What is it saying? What is it saying about John the Baptist? He wasn't going to be an excavator. He wasn't coming with bulldozers to tear down mountains and fill in valley. He was leveling the playing field so that when Jesus, our Lord, stepped on the scene, everybody had a level playing field. Everybody could move in that spirit. That's where we're at today. We've had every mountain brought down. We've had every valley brought up. We've leveled the playing field. And Sister Aubrey, Sister Norad, sister out there who is sitting with your fourth husband, sister out there who has gone through prostitution, sister out there who's had things, and brethren who have been the drunks and the smokers and the everything else, the playing field is level. None of those things matter.
Right.
None of those things matter. We're all in the same level playing field together. Let's help one another. Let's love one another. That's the year that I see. Anything else? Do you see anything on there that...
Yeah. Great liberation and better perspective of the world around me. It's Brother Ben. Brother Alan Stuckless. This is a beautiful picture of me. Thank you, Brother Torrey. A wonderful confirmation of who I am and who we are.
Okay.
Some good comments.
We love you. I don't know how else to say it. Not really words to say it. We need to move beyond the language of things this year and move into the feeling and the emotion, the intuition, the understanding of one another, the acceptance of one another. Move into that. And if my language, sometimes if I get my tongue tied a little bit, look over it and know who I am. Let's have feeling for one another.
Practical application doesn't come from thought, it comes from feeling.
Comes from feeling. That's what it's about. Okay, we love you. And Friday evening, we okay? We will have a Friday evening session so that people understand a little bit. There were so many out there who are coming in new, out in the playing field, that said, Brother Parnell, we'd kind of like to know your thoughts and your understanding on many of these subjects. So I decided to take the Sunday mornings and kind of let that flow out, and so that you have my vision and understanding. Friday evenings, that session is open session. It's, if Sister Norad comes with a subject, she can bring it up and discuss it and lead it. If Sister Aubrey comes with a subject, or Sister Connie, or Daniel, or Alan, or any of the others, Joe Parnell, or Sister Pam, or all the others that do come, Brother Darrell and his wife, and we have a pretty good little group when we can get them all together. And just Friday evenings are for that. Open up discussion on so many subjects. So when you come on Friday evening, kind of look for it to be a little different than what it is on a Sunday morning. We mean for it to be that way, so that we can be a help. And we love you with all that's within us. As you want to turn that little guy on and sing a couple of courses. We do have, you can see it, but we do have our piano with us now. Brother Alan was gracious enough to...
It's your piano.
No, I gave it away. Once I give it away, it's yours. So you gave it to the church, to the fellowship, and to the assembly. It was mine.
So many songs, listen to 1,000 tongues, but there is one washed and clean. I know the promised land is right here in front of me.
Yes.
For everywhere I go, I see you. Everywhere I go, I see you. As the eagle flies and the rivers run, I look through the night, I can see the rising sun. For everywhere I go, I see you. Everywhere I go, I see you. For everywhere I go, I see you. Everywhere I go, I see you. Last verse. Will the grass will die and the flowers fall, but the words of life will live on and on. For everywhere I go, I see you. Everywhere I go, I see you. For everywhere I go, I see you. Everywhere I go, I see you. For everywhere I go, I see you. Everywhere I go, I see you. For everywhere I go, I see you. Everywhere I go, I see you.
Yes. So we all join hands and we will take this in and give it to as many as we can, as she's probably busy. And trusting with all that's within us, we have within us the life that everyone needs, the life that everyone has. But what we are doing is sending out an energy that says we would love for you all to become aware of it. We'd love for you all to come to a higher level of consciousness and understanding. So in the authority of Christ, we stand here. We do that for ourselves, for our loved ones, for our bodies, for our healing, for our finances, for all of these things. That spirit, us, that lies within us, standing here in the authority of Christ to declare it, and it be so. In Jesus' name.